I think it's safe to say that change is on my agenda. Change for good. And I embrace that and I enjoy that change. I don't fear it.
Prince William has officially issued an order banning Queen Camilla's entire inner circle from Kensington Palace, while immediately opening the doors for Duchess Sophie's trusted team to take over internal operations. This severe rift exploded from a dirty betrayal. Princess Catherine's confidential confidences at Clarence House were secretly recorded by Camilla's senior advisor and leaked to the media, manufacturing a ruthless defamation campaign to bring down the Kensington office. The shadow war escalated into a fiery confrontation behind closed doors, leaving King Charles III in an ultimate dilemma before he decided to sign a decree protecting his son and severing his wife's informant network. The climax of humiliation unfolded right on the ground when the Queen's longtime courtier was stopped and bluntly thrown out right at the palace's iron gates in front of paparazzi cameras, exposing a brutal breakdown of trust. What will Princess Catherine do when standing completely alone face-to-face with Camilla in a locked room, holding an ironclad dossier of evidence in her hands? Where will this adversarial relationship go when the Queen is backed into a corner, forced to execute her closest confidant with her own hands to save her own crown? And behind the clean-cut victory of the Kensington faction, what other terrifying threat silently lurks around the heir's home? The private reception took place inside an isolated drawing room within Clarence House, a place where trust between family members should have been sacrosanct. Princess Catherine sat across from Queen Camilla, her hands slightly tightening around her gilded porcelain teacup to hide a slight tremor from exhaustion. The relentless pressure of life and responsibilities weighing heavily on her shoulders after consecutive upheavals had depleted her body, leading to a rare moment of vulnerability. Thinking this was an absolutely private family space, free from camera lenses or the media's eyes and ears, Kate let her guard down. Her voice lowered in deep trust as she shared her wish to postpone an upcoming major event, an important foreign engagement of which she was the center. She explained that she needed this period to step back to stabilize her children's lives, protect the peace of her young family, and recover her health. Opposite her, Camilla responded with a slow nod and a gentle, magnanimous smile. However, the Queen's eyes held not a shred of genuine empathy. They were cold, calculating, and indifferent, like a seasoned hunter, watching their prey step right into a preset trap. Right behind the thick crimson velvet curtain, separating the drawing room from the dark hallway corridor, a dark figure stood completely still, like a statue. It was the senior advisor, Camilla's longtime confidant and most capable henchman. His hand was shoved deep into his wool coat pocket, his finger firmly pressing the activation button of a highly sensitive micro-digital voice recorder. This specialized recording device silently operated, swallowing every word, every sigh, and even the painful hesitations in the voice of the Princess of Wales. The advisor held his breath, his lips curling into a satisfied smirk as he captured the priceless piece of evidence that could upend the entire palace landscape. Camilla was fully aware of her subordinate's presence behind the curtain. She actively prolonged the conversation with malicious leading questions, deliberately digging into Kate's vulnerability so her recording courtier wouldn't miss a single detail, turning her daughter-in-law's trust into a weapon of self-destruction. The cruelty of the Clarence House faction did not stop at archiving the audio file. They immediately turned it into a direct assault right at the gathering. After leaving his hiding spot, the senior advisor covertly leaked and repeated this confidential information to several highly influential guests right in the room. He whispered into their ears, deliberately twisting Kate's confidences into undeniable proof of instability stemming from the Kensington office. Only a few hours later, the information spread at breakneck speed, plunging Kensington Palace into a ruthless media crisis across major international news outlets. Prince William stood frozen before his tablet screen, his face hardening, and the veins in his temples throbbing with rage as he saw his wife's private confidences brazenly smeared. The articles described Catherine as a woman in crisis, psychologically unstable and incompetent to shoulder royal responsibilities. The goal of Camilla's faction was perfectly clear and ruthless. They wanted to use Kate's private life to undermine the operational competence of the Kensington office, isolating the couple in the face of public pressure to easily manipulate future privileges. Seeing the helpless tears of his ailing wife, Prince William knew that all patience had come to an end. Without a second of hesitation, he decided to launch a counterstrike with an iron fist to protect his domain. William walked to his desk and personally put pen to paper, signing a palace management order, effective immediately bypassing all standard negotiations. This order completely and radically stripped away operational access to the Kensington office for all advisors and subordinates belonging to Queen Camilla's faction. Kensington's security control system was reprogrammed that very night. All digital key codes of the Clarence House faction were completely wiped from the servers, turning their smart cards into useless pieces of plastic. William didn't bother to issue any verbal warnings or explanations. He acted purely on the authority of a soldier protecting his family. To establish a new iron shield and smash the enemy's network of spies, William ordered the immediate inclusion of Duchess Sophie's trusted team into Kensington's internal planning meetings. Sophie, who always stood on the side of justice and offered absolute protection to Kate personally, led her most loyal staff into the Kensington fortress. They quickly seized control of all information flows, locked down the entry and exit points, and changed all security codes of the core offices. The arrival of Sophie's team completely isolated any remaining moles. William's declaration of war through action was sent straight to Clarence House. Camilla's faction was officially cut off from intervening in the nerve center of the Wales office, drawing a clear line in the sand with real power. The Shadow War did not stop at locking the palace doors. It quickly shifted into an aggressive and sophisticated campaign to hunt down traces of the crime under the sharp guidance of Duchess Sophie. Sophie did not just play the role of an ordinary security aide. She acted with the sharp, meticulous, and cold intuition of a true detective. Realizing that the leak of Kate's information had been executed too professionally and systematically, Sophie knew that Camilla's senior advisor must have left a digital footprint when coordinating with the media network to launch the smear campaign. She directed her team of specialists to conduct a comprehensive sweep across all shared data servers, synchronized between the palace divisions, combing through every internal communication system, log to find ironclad evidence. After hours of relentless searching in the dark, Sophie found what she needed in a cache hidden deep beneath Clarence House's archive directory. It wasn't merely an audio file, but a special report drafted entirely by Camilla's faction weeks before the Tea Party took place. This thick dossier contained horrifying evidence of a meticulously calculated plot to seize power. Inside the report were detailed plans, personnel replacement charts, and media blueprints prepared to take over all major events of the Kensington office the moment Kate encountered an issue or suffered a mental breakdown. Every page of the report exposed the greed, cruelty, and ruthless betrayal of those who called themselves family. They had precisely calculated the moment Kate was most vulnerable, exploiting her health status to deliver a dismantling blow, aiming to seize control of major activities for Camilla's office to increase their influence in subsequent royal projects. The report confirmed a naked truth: the audio leak at the Tea Party was not the spontaneous act of a gossiping subordinate, but an organized takedown campaign, a dirty crime designed to destroy the future Queen's honor for personal gain. The villain was still smugly enjoying his freedom at Clarence House, believing his plan was flawless, and that William would choose silence to preserve the family's dignity. They had no idea that the noose of justice was tightening bit by bit as the entire filthy dossier had been fully photographed and backed up. Sophie immediately locked the dossier into a secure black leather briefcase, and personally delivered it to William's private study, bypassing all intermediary levels. As the pages of the report were spread out under the light of the closed room, the atmosphere fell into a terrifying, suffocating silence. William read every line intently, his hands clenching into fists, the blue veins bulging violently on his arms and his jaw tightening in fury. The brazen betrayal by his stepmother and her subordinate had crossed the line of endurance for the head of the Kensington office. They wanted to paint his wife as a psychologically unstable lunatic to push her out of her future seat, destroying his family's honor from within. William looked up at Sophie, his gaze cold and sharp as a blade, carrying a ruthless determination. "We will no longer just defend. I will make them pay with their own humiliation for every single word in this report." The wrath of the Prince of Wales transformed into a decisive and ruthless offensive campaign, giving the enemy no chance to react. Holding the dossier filled with the dirty plots provided by Sophie, William strode down the long palace corridor, the sound of his leather shoes pounding against the floor, sounding stark and menacing, causing the surrounding staff to bow their heads and stay clear. His first destination was the office of Camilla's senior advisor, the man who directly executed the wiretapping. Without the formality of a knock or prior announcement, William pushed the door open forcefully, generating immense psychological pressure. The advisor, sitting at his desk, jolted, dropping the pen in his hand to the floor upon seeing the prince's murderously intense aura. William did not utter a word. He threw the defamatory dossier directly in front of the man. Seeing the secret plans drafted by his own hands completely exposed, the courtier's face turned pale, and beads of cold sweat poured down like rain. He could only tremble, bowing his head in a futile attempt to deny the crime before William's overwhelming and icy gaze, realizing he had been backed into an ultimate dead end. But the advisor was merely a pawn on the chessboard of power. William's true target was the mastermind pulling the strings, Queen Camilla. Leaving the courtier's office, William headed straight for Camilla's private room at Clarence House. He walked in and slammed the door shut, confronting his stepmother directly behind closed doors to completely block out external eyes and ears, turning the room into a suffocating psychological arena. The confrontation was incredibly fierce and tense, though not a single loud sound escaped into the corridor. Camilla initially maintained the characteristic arrogance of a queen, deliberately acting aloof, denying any connection to the advisor's actions, and accusing William of being oversensitive and blowing things out of proportion to provoke conflict. However, when William coldly pointed out the ironclad evidence in Sophie's report, proving her own office had approved the plan to oust Kensington, the smile on Camilla's lips instantly froze, her face displaying sheer shock. William resolutely refused any diplomatic offers of appeasement, explanation, or concession from Camilla. He stood tall, his voice deep and steel-plated, declaring that the era when the Clarence House faction could freely interfere, wiretap, and smear his family's life had ended permanently as of today. To prove his words were no idle threat, William pulled a series of specialized black handheld devices, rugged and angular in design, from his coat pocket. These were devices belonging to the Restricted Communication System, an entirely new internal information security network, established independently by him and Sophie's security team. William announced the freezing of all old communication channels between the two offices, completely cutting off the flow of sensitive information. From this moment on, all data work schedules and internal information regarding him and his wife would be routed directly to this restricted, encrypted system. Any subordinate belonging to Camilla's faction, who was not explicitly approved, could absolutely not interfere, access, or wiretap it anymore. Camilla stood frozen in the middle of the room, staring blankly at the encrypted communication devices in William's hands, realizing she had been completely pushed to the margins of power. stripped entirely of her network of eyes and ears in the information's war she herself had sparked, only to suffer an initially humiliating defeat. The direct clash between the heir and the Queen pushed King Charles III into the ultimate dilemma. On one side was Camilla, his wife of decades. On the other was the future of the monarchy and the honor of Princess Catherine, which was being brutally trampled upon. The king sat in silence at his desk, helplessly watching the rift tear his family into two opposing halves. Knowing his father was hesitating, William proactively delivered the decisive blow. He stepped directly into the study, placing the dossier containing a copy of the palace management order, along with the filthy leak evidence decrypted by Sophie, straight onto the desk. William looked directly into his father's eyes, declaring resolutely, if the king did not act to punish the one who smeared Kate, he himself would use the strongest measures to publicly dismantle the Clarence House faction before the media. The elder son's rigidity forced King Charles III to make an agonizing choice. Seeing the despicable evidence aimed at his daughter-in-law, the king decided to protect justice and the right to privacy of his legitimate heir. Bypassing all attempts to keep the peace, he put pen to paper and signed a royal household office memorandum stamped with the supreme red wax seal. This command officially approved William's tough compromise, maintaining a permanent ban on Camilla's informal inner circle at Kensington, forcing her staff to communicate only through strictly monitored and approved channels. The Queen's informant network was officially severed, pushing the treacherous advisor straight into a brutal trap of punishment right at the palace gates. That morning, the atmosphere enveloping the entrance to Kensington Palace bore a stillness so heavy it felt suffocating. But it was the deathly quiet before a devastating storm struck. The entire defense system here had been reconfigured by Prince William and Duchess Sophie into a perfect snare, just waiting for the prey to walk into the net. Queen Camilla's longtime senior advisor, who remained entirely immersed in smug satisfaction, absolutely confident that his dirty recording and wiretapping at Clarence House had not been exposed, sat pompously in the back seat of a luxury car. He smoothly adjusted the folds of his immaculate wool coat, his fingers tracing a small folder, deliberately using the excuse of a routine handover to infiltrate Kate's domain. His true purpose was nothing less than to continue snooping on the situation and scouting the reaction of William and Kate after the articles defaming the Princess of Wales's private life shook American and international public opinion. He could never have guessed that an invisible noose had already tightened around his neck the moment the car wheels stopped before the fortified iron gates. The car came to a complete halt before Kensington's independent security checkpoint. The advisor stepped out of the vehicle with the demeanor of a powerful courtier under the Queen's banner, his face radiating unmasked self-conceit. He walked straight toward the automated security console, equipped with modern digital keycard scanners. With a swift and confident motion, he pulled out his black keycard, engraved with the exclusive royal emblem, swiping it firmly through the card reader, just as he had done for years. However, instead of a soft, gentle beep and the heavy iron gates slowly opening, a bright red LED light suddenly flashed continuously on the digital control panel. Kensington's defense system issued harsh warning text on the screen, announcing that his access rights had been completely and permanently revoked. The advisor froze, the smug smile instantly vanishing from his lips as sheer panic flashed across his face. He hurriedly wiped the card against his palm and swiped it a second time, then a third time. But the scanner remained indifferent, glowing solid red like a cold, ruthless rejection from the Prince of Wales. Just as the advisor began to panic, the sentry box door swung open. Two tall royal security officers, dressed in immaculate uniforms with faces as cold as stone statues, stepped out to block him, creating an insurmountable wall of flesh. One of them spoke, his voice steely, echoing clearly, with every word across the open palace courtyard deliberately loud enough for all the surrounding junior staff to hear. Your card has been deactivated by a direct palace management order from Prince William and the Royal Household Office Memorandum, approved and signed by His Majesty the King. You no longer hold the right to cross this threshold under any capacity. Please leave the premises immediately. The advisor's face turned from flushed red to deathly pale with humiliation. He deliberately raised his voice condescendingly, invoking his title as Queen Camilla's spokesperson to force the guards to open the gates. Yet the two security guards stood completely motionless, hands resting casually on their holsters, their razor-sharp gazes locking him in place, causing all his threats to choke in his throat. The courtier's ultimate humiliation did not end there, because the trap William laid out was calculated down to the smallest detail. Right across the street, hidden behind the bushes and the palace's outer perimeter, fencing a large crowd of paparazzi and journalists from major American publications who had been tipped off in advance were waiting with full equipment. Seeing the spectacle of Queen Camilla's most trusted, highly powerful advisor being blocked and flatly expelled by security forces, right in front of palace staff, the media crowd erupted. Dozens of camera lenses flashed rapidly from a distance, fully capturing every moment of panic, every line of embarrassment and humiliation on the courtier's face as he was shooed away like an illegal intruder. Less than an hour later, the scandal had transformed into a global storm with devastating destructive power. On the front pages of major newspapers, the image of the advisor standing helplessly before Kensington's iron gates appeared alongside a colossal, sensational headline. William draws the line. Queen's courtier boldly expelled. The defining phrase, a shrewd breakdown of trust, instantly became the hottest trending keyword across all forms, publicly exposing the complete collapse of internal trust within the royal family to the global public. The villain, who had been smugly celebrating, was now dragged into the light, forced to endure ruthless public humiliation before the media, without a chance to deny his guilt, while the Clarence House faction fell into absolute panic over this direct, devastating blow. Amidst the media storm raging furiously outside the palace walls, inside an isolated room located in a neutral zone of the royal network, Princess Catherine had fully regained the majestic, icy demeanor of a future queen. The weakness and exhaustion from the tea party a few days prior were replaced by an iron will to defend her family's honor and her children's future to the very end. Sitting beside her was Duchess Sophie, who had just finished printing a single document placed on the table. This was the Prudence Protocol, a set of strict boundary clauses on information security, completely isolating any interference from the Clarence House faction into the Kensington office from this day forward. This was not a dry administrative text, but a covenant forged in real power, an ultimate psychological trap perfectly designed to force the mastermind behind the wiretapping to capitulate with no way out. Kate gently smoothed the pages of the Prudence Protocol, tucked it neatly into her clutch purse, and stood up. She had proactively scheduled a private meeting with Queen Camilla in this locked room, with an ultimate and non-negotiable condition: the confrontation must take place in absolute privacy, with no assistants, security staff, or husbands accompanying them. Kate wanted to settle this battle for the crown herself, using actual authority confronting her stepmother face to face to make her pay for her ruthless betrayal. As the heavy wooden door shut, Camilla was already seated across from her. The Queen's face showed clear signs of agitation and exhaustion following the humiliating scandal at Kensington's Iron Gate that morning. She tried to use a straight posture and an arrogant gaze to conceal her panic, but her tightly intertwined hands betrayed the complete disadvantage of the mistress of Clarence House before her daughter-in-law's arrival. Kate did not give Camilla any opportunity to use hollow diplomatic rhetoric or fake pleasantries to diffuse the situation. She sat down, her composure terrifyingly calm, then slowly opened her clutch purse to extract the Prudence Protocol, along with the dossier containing the decrypted covert audio recordings and the takeover plot report compiled by Sophie. She gently but resolutely pushed that ironclad evidence toward Camilla. Kate's gaze locked onto the Queen's face, her voice exceptionally low and warm, yet carrying immense psychological weight, exposing the entire boundary-crossing, despicable conduct of the senior advisor at Clarence House. Kate did not bother with loud threats. She merely presented a naked reality. This filthy wiretapping evidence, combined with the King's order, had backed Camilla into a corner. If these audio files were leaked further to the American media, the crown and the entire reputation Camilla had spent a lifetime building would utterly collapse under public outrage. Camilla stared intently at the words and diagrams in the report, her face turning from pale to a ghastly gray, her lips trembling without a word. The Queen realized she had fallen completely into an inescapable trap engineered by her two daughters-in-law. Her trusted advisor's greed and malice had now turned into a time bomb, planted right beneath her own seat. Kate delivered the final decisive blow, forcing Camilla into a grim choice. The Queen must agree to sign the Prudence Protocol, acknowledging her office's mistakes, accepting Kensington's absolute independent boundary of power, and most importantly, personally purging and erasing the treacherous advisor immediately. In return, Kate promised to keep this leaked evidence in the dark to preserve the final dignity of the royal family before public opinion. Faced with Kate's overwhelming authority and ruthless psychological snare, Camilla understood that every card in her hand had been burned to ashes. She was forced to surrender to save herself from a permanent catastrophic downfall. The total collapse of the Clarence House faction unfolded brutally and coldly within the four walls of the locked room. Under the crushing psychological weight of the ironclad evidence and Catherine's uncompromising resolve, Queen Camilla's arrogant defense completely disintegrated. She bowed her head, her voice raspy and trembling, as she was forced to verbally admit that her senior advisor's actions were entirely beyond moral boundaries and utterly inexcusable. To save the crown on her head and extinguish the threat of a media explosion that could wipe out all her privileges, Camilla understood she had to sacrifice her closest confidant with her own hands. Under Kate's icy surveillance, Camilla slowly pulled her personal smartphone from her handbag, her fingers shaking as she opened her secure internal system directory. Locating the name of her longtime courtier, the man who had been her capable right hand in executing so many lurking plots and wiretaps, Camilla decisively executed a ruthless tap on the screen. She directly erased the advisor's name from the royal contact list, while simultaneously activating an electronic expulsion order, effective immediately stripping him of all Power's titles and severing all connections between him and Clarence House. This act meant the treacherous courtier was mercilessly discarded by his own master, like a pawn sacrificed for survival. The villain, who had once been smugly celebrating, conceded over his plot to defame Kate, now faced the most brutal punishment, losing his entire career, having his honor publicly ruined, and being permanently exiled from the palace world, in ultimate disgrace with not a single person standing up to defend or pity him. The smoldering years-long adversarial relationship between the two palace offices transformed from this very moment into a cold, pragmatic, and clean-cut pact of confidentiality. Queen Camilla was forced to accept the bitter reality that the independent boundary of the Kensington office's power was henceforth sacrosanct, and she would never be permitted to interfere or plant eyes and ears in William and Kate's lives ever again. True to her promise on the honor of a future queen, Catherine retrieved the dossier of leaked evidence, placed it back into her clutch purse, and locked that dark secret into the shadows to protect the collective dignity of the monarchy before the public. However, her actual status and authority within the palace had completely transformed, becoming as solid as bedrock. A new era had officially dawned at Buckingham Palace, an era forged by the iron fists of the legitimate heirs, where there was no longer room for artificial silence or deceptive smiles. As Kate stepped out of the isolated room, she saw Prince William and Duchess Sophie waiting for her at the far end of the long corridor. The brilliant midday sun streamed through the large glass windows, casting a golden glow on the silhouette of the woman who had used wit and resilience to protect her family. William walked over to his wife, tightly clasping her hand, as an affirmation of the absolute victory of the righteous faction. The wicked had been publicly unmasked and justly punished, and Kensington's right to privacy was established with overwhelming authority, cementing the sacrosanct position of the future monarchy based on genuine respect. How do you feel about Kate's powerful yet incredibly cold countermove in the locked room? Will this resilience and iron fist help her protect her home, or will it push her into ultimate isolation on the path to the future crown? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.